Just another quick lesson here in the New Testament is Fake series. This lesson is titled Structured Group Thinking. I was thinking just a few moments ago that groups are used oftentimes to get you to think a certain way, so they culture your mind a certain way. Now, when thinking of this whole New Testament is Fake series, I thought how so many people just regurgitate what they have been taught because they're in a certain group like a church or a camp, and that's just what they've been taught, so they think that. And I did the same as well when I was in the Christian church, and started to do that when I came into the Israelite understanding, which I stopped it very soon because I could see that this New Testament was fake. And lately I've been watching a little bit more of the lessons from people who defend this Jesus and the New Testament salvation. And I've watched them struggle with using the Old Testament to pull off the teachings in the New Testament, to defend the New Testament. And it is such a struggle. I can tell. And I'm just thinking that a large part of that is just that you are a part of a group. And to maintain the group, if you are running it or helping someone else run it, then you're going to just continue to teach that stuff and regurgitate the points over and over. And I've noted that for the ones that I've been listening to a lot, that they just go over the same things because there's only so much you can say. Like, this whole New Testament and Jesus salvation has been hit badly so much for such a long time, from before I even started to deal with it, that it's pretty clear that that side that defends Jesus is very desperate. And one of my main ways to see that it's desperate is because people were not trying to get saved through Jesus before Jesus ever showed up. They just weren't. And they had no problems with God in terms of getting what we would call quote unquote saved. Like if you look in the Torah, we're told by the Jesus freaks that he was prophesied in many places in the Old Testament, in the book of Zechariah, Isaiah, and so many other places, and that even in the Garden of Eden, while Adam was still alive, supposedly the Creator was putting out some prophecy of this New Testament Messiah by killing a so-called lamb, which again, I'll tell you, it never said lamb, it never said sheep. It said he made them coats of skin. It does not tell you anything about any kind of animals. It's not telling you that there was a sheep or a lamb slain. But they say that he was prophesied, basically by the Creator, that the seed of the woman is going to bruise the serpent's head and so on. And they say that's Jesus that the Creator is prophesying about. First of all, while I don't still consider myself an expert at the Torah, I normally see that the God of Israel speaks to people, like if he has a prophet that that prophet prophesies on behalf of him, speaks on behalf of him. But here apparently the Creator is prophesying himself when he spoke to Eve, saying the seed of the woman. Now, if a prophet is one who speaks for God, why here is the Creator prophesying for himself about salvation when he is the ultimate Savior? Now, when you are in these groups that defend Jesus, whether you're on the Hebrew side or the Christian side of things, you're just really participating as a group, and structured groups make you feel and think a certain way. And you just do what you're doing because you are a part of the group. But you continue to do it even when you feel something is not right, or even when you feel it is right, you still continue to do it just because of how you are cultured in the group, how you are taught. You are not free on your own to venture out too far and to just do whatever you want or think whatever you want. A group is like that. Now, generally speaking, we all will be a part of groups, no matter what, no matter how free thinking you feel yourself is. You will just be a part of a group. But it is also a more dangerous truth that when you are a part of many groups, you are not going to be free to just be yourself. And that's the part I want to talk about. You're just not going to be free. So now, you've heard so many things about Jesus being fake, New Testament and the Roman creation of it and so on, and that he didn't really die, there's no proof for him having lived or his resurrection, things like that. And you've heard all kinds of arguments on both sides. And you want to check it out for yourself. But you still continue to believe and to teach the same thing. Because you are really not that free to go where your mind needs to go to look into the issue properly for yourself. Why? Because you're part of a group. And the group gives structured thinking to make you stay there, and you will feel guilty if you try to leave the group. Sometimes the guilt goes as far as telling you that you're going to go to hell, or you're going to lose your soul, or you're going to be destroyed. They might even call you nicknames. Nicknames that you aren't given as yet personally, but they're just there in the general teachings of the group as a part of the general dogma, so that you know anybody who thinks outside of the group, outside of the teachings of the group, will be classified according to these nicknames of destruction, of hatred of God, to show that God hates you, and this is going to be your title or your name should you leave the thinking behind. And people are just not free when they belong to a group to think whatever they want. And some will say, well, yeah, we're part of a group, but we can think whatever. But you're not free to go as far as you want. You can think a little different from the group, just a little bit, but you cannot go as far as you want because of structured group thinking. You must belong to the group, and so what happens is that you are locked into the thinking of the group, and you cannot use your free mind that the Creator gave because you are not allowed to follow your heart. So the group locks you in, and you are never truly free because you have an affinity to the group thinking, an affinity to the group teaching and doctrine. When you were born, you didn't come here with that thinking. You just were born as a newborn child, and you could venture out, you could explore, you could feel, you could think. Think of how Adam was made. It doesn't present him as being an infant coming out of a womb, but at least it shows that he began to think for himself. He began to venture out from where he was, and he could explore. The only way Adam could have named all the creatures was because he would explore, he would watch their habits, see what they look like and so on, and where they would normally go, what their habitat was like, and he could name them according to that. Adam would not have found out different things if he did not venture out and explore. He went different places. That's the only way for Adam to have known stuff. Even when you look at the serpent, if the serpent should normally be where they were at, because they were enclosed in this, what it says was a garden, the serpent was obviously exploring. He's going different places. And when he found them, he decided to take them over. It says the serpent was more subtle than all the beasts of the field. Now, the garden is set apart to be different from just a general field where all the beasts were. So it's telling you that even the serpent was venturing out. He was going beyond the field, going into the Garden of Eden, as it is called. But you're really then looking at just a general moving around, exploring and so on. When you are not free to explore beyond the teachings of your group, you will be confined in it. And you cannot tell me, as I've been showing for the past little while with the sacrificial system, that the killing of an animal brings salvation. How is it that if you kill an animal that you are now saved? And think of it, that animal that is killed was not saved from death. So how come what happened to him saves you? The dead carcass of the animal is laying on the altar with the blood running everywhere and dripping down on the ground, showing you that the animal suffered defeat. So a defeat procedure brings you freedom and victory. Think for yourself, people. Structured group thinking inverts things, turns things upside down to let you think something is all right when the thing is very wrong. The result of death from the animal cannot bring you life. You are only taught in your group to think that that is the truth. Be free to think and to explore for yourself. Think for yourself for the first time in your life. You should be free to think, free to explore. Finally, and in closing, look at all these people that have been found, like indigenous peoples in different parts of the earth, like the, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, the Jawara people, and look at different kinds of people that have been living kind of cut off from normal, regular, advanced, might I say, society and civilization. And they've been there for a very long time, living undisturbed. These people, they do not feel that they need to be saved from a hell from God. They do not feel that they need, well, some of them might have certain practices that seem similar to whatever, because they might eat meat and so on. But a lot of them still don't eat meat. Although that's not the focus right here. But they don't normally feel like they need to read the Bible, that they need to read the Torah. And they live more blessed lives than all of us living with the Torah or the Bible or the New Testament. Because their teeth are more healthy, and we're told that they start to go down in health when they get introduced to modern man's medicine. They're more healthy, they sleep well, they just don't get sick all the time, and so on. The elements seem to be on their side, and from what we see, they are not in large part injured, or they don't decline in that kind of way until, quote-unquote, modern man meets them with his modern diet and his modern weapons and his modern pills and injections and so on. But they never feel like they're losing out on God. They never feel like the Creator is against them. They're fine. In fact, when some of them see you coming as a modern-looking kind of person, they get scared of you. And they never needed to hear about your Jesus or your the Most High or your any kind of God that you worship. And they live fine. And you cannot convince them of losing their souls. But one day a book rose that said you need to be saved. How come we're the ones teaching them when we find them? Why aren't they coming to look for us to find us to teach us? Because we always think we got something to give to them. When we found them, they were living just fine, they were healthy and everything. Think for yourselves. These people are fine. They're not going to hell. They're not living by fear of going to hell and of breaking the laws of God. And they're not afraid of a lot of the things that we're afraid of. It seems to me that they're more healthfully, mentally healthy. which should also link to being healthy in their heart. Physical heart, yeah, but I'm trying to say like that spiritual part of us that we call the heart. They look fine. And fear of spiritual things is not introduced to them in large part until a modern teaching comes to them from books that went haywire when many wars were being fought by different nations eons ago. And if you say these, even if some of these people are Hebrews from ancient times and so on, you notice that they don't feel a need to run back to the book, and that they never ran with a book from the wars. They just lived century after century, century after century, thousands of years. They're going like that. And they never tried to get back to a book. Because they're living with the fruit and the natural food that the Creator gave, and the sunshine and the rain and the sea water that's there with them, and the earth that's there around them and so on, and the trees and so on, and whatever animals are around them. They're living with it, and they live better lives. And some of us modern people today are wishing we could go and live the way they're living. And when the bombs start to drop and the wars start to break out worldwide, many of us are going to be trying to run into places like that to look for safety. But we're here trying to convert them to what? To a life where they're going to be looking forward to running to safe places. They're already in safe places until we find them.